I call the honourable member for Menzies.
Thank you, Mr Deputy
Sorry,
Speaker.
The question is that this bill be now read a second time. I now call the honourable member for Menzies.
Once again, thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the Family Assistance and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2012. This bill promulgates amendments to family payments announced in the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook, as well as implementing changes to support for carers, which were initially outlined in the National Carer Strategy. First matter is immunisation requirements. The bill, Mr Deputy Speaker, would introduce a measure to amend family assistance legislation to make payment of the Family Tax Benefit Part A supplement conditional on a child meeting immunisation requirements. These changes apply to the income years in which the child turns 1, 2 and 5. Consequently, the provision of maternity immunisation allowance will cease from the 1st of July 2012. The Labor Party contends that this measure will strengthen incentives for parents to have their children immunised and help improve immunisation rates over time. The second matter in the bill is the baby bonus. This measure will pause the indexation of baby bonus for 3 years from the 1st of July 2012 and resets the amount of the baby bonus to $5,000 per child from the 1st of September 2012. I note that currently the amount payable under the baby bonus is $5,437. So effectively, from the 1st of July this year, the government is reducing the baby bonus by $437, an almost 10% decrease in the baby bonus. And in addition to that, is placing on pause the indexation that would normally occur to the baby bonus over the next 3 years. So what we have here is a direct hit at families having children from this government in this bill. This is the largest attack on family and household budgets, and it comes at a bad time for Australian families. Now, this reduction in support for Australian families needs to be put in context because it's part of what can be seen as a broad attack on Middle Australia. First, we can still recall on this side of the House Labor's attack in the 2008 budget when Labor introduced a means test on the baby bonus, which limited the bonus to families with an adjusted taxable income of $75,000 or less in the 6 months after the birth of the baby. Secondly, in the 2008 budget, Labor means tested the Family Tax Benefit Part B, so that any family where the main income earner had income of more than $150,000 lost the benefit. Thirdly, in the following year's budget, in 2009, Labor froze indexation for the full payment of family tax benefits A and B and the baby bonus and the dependent spouse rebate. Labor then announced that from the 1st of July 2009, the income test for the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card would include income from superannuation streams with a tax source and a salary that is sacrificed to superannuation. They subsequently backed down on this after community outrage. And then in the 2011 budget, Labor froze indexation for family tax benefits A and B supplement payments. Of course, then we had the flood levy. Those earning over $100,000 pay a 0.5% of taxable income in excess of $50,000 and 1% in excess of $100,000. And of course, all at the same time, childcare costs are continuing to go through the roof for families around Australia. So this is the context of this latest attack, as I said, on families in Australia. And on the government's own figures, under the carbon tax, which will come in from the 1st of July this year, there will be an immediate 10% increase in electricity prices and a 9% increase in gas bills. Now that comes on top, as I pointed out in the previous debate, Mr Deputy Speaker, that over the last 4 years, electricity prices across Australia have gone up by 61%, gas prices by 37%. Of course, we've also had health costs go up by 20%, education costs up by 24%, even rent costs up by in excess of 20%. So all of this is a direct attack, a direct hit on the families of Australia, and there's no end in sight. The Prime Minister's own figures in her own Carbon Sunday documents show that more than 3 million Australian households will be worse off, and these just aren't rich people. A teacher married to a shop assistant, worse off under the government's package, even on the government's own figures. A policeman married to a part-time nurse, worse off on the government's own figures, thanks to the carbon tax. A single income family with a child, again on the government's own modelling, starts to be worse off from below average weekly earnings. And now we've got the government's attack through the means test on the private health insurance rebate. But let me return to the bill at hand. There's also a provision for non-entitlement to family tax benefit on an estimated income basis. This measure will prevent an individual, and where one exists a partner, from being entitled to family tax benefit Part A and or Part B as fortnightly instalments on the basis of estimated income where the individual had no actual entitlement after underestimating their income for 2 consecutive years starting from 2009-10. As stipulated in the National Carer Strategy, the bill gives certain carer allowance recipients who care for a disabled adult access to bereavement payments on the death of the care receiver. A second measure from the National Carer Strategy will allow access to carer supplement for those carers whose rate of payment is reduced to nil because of income where they or their partner worked in a fortnight covering 1st of July in any given year. The government claim this will help ensure the income support system does not act as a disincentive to carers working in paid employment. Other amendments are also made to the Family Assistance Law and Social Security Law to clarify various provisions. The amendments are of a minor technical, nature. The government has lost trust of the Australian people in this country, Mr Deputy Speaker. As I said, we have a distrusted, desperate and indeed dysfunctional government in Australia at the present time, and they stand condemned for their relentless attacks on families and their household budgets. And this is just the latest example, a almost 10% reduction in the baby bonus immediately, and of course the reduction which is carried through with the pause on indexation. This is something which directly goes to the budgets of Australian families who are already facing higher living costs right throughout this nation. As such, Mr Deputy Speaker, I move the amendment circulated in my name and commend it to the House.